Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Happy 40th birthday, 401k plan. So, does that mean your 401k is now over the hill?
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, Tony Walker.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it get more of it. The less they need it, the more they love it. And it sticks to them like glue. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.
Oh, yes, the 401k plan just celebrated its 40th birthday. That's right, in 1978, I always like to kid around. In 1978, three very, very important world-changing events occurred in 1978. Number one, I graduated high school. That's Aaron and Matt in the office here. Yeah, thank you. My granddad, in 1978, retired after 43 years with Bell South. Actually, that was pretty earth-changing and earth-shattering because I use that a lot in my program. But more importantly, for our discussion today, in 1978, that's when the government enacted into law what is now known commonly as the 401k plan. Well, welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement, folks, and we are discussing the Don't Follow the Herd book, a book that I wrote, was published in 2010, and we've been going week by week and dissecting the 7 costly mistakes that people make with their money and how to avoid them, which is covered in the book, which incidentally is a great book. If you'd like to order that, you can get it on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. It's Don't Follow the Herd. Incidentally, for those of you who end up meeting with me, ask for a free copy. We've got some copies here. If you'd like to meet with me and just say, hey, Tony, by the way, can I have a book? Can I have one of your books, Don't Follow the Herd? I'll be happy to pass one of those off to you. So let's talk. We're not going to talk about me graduating high school. Actually, that was pretty uneventful. But let's talk about Granddad, because it's important to set the stage for why we maybe shouldn't be too celebratory over this whole 40th birthday thing for the 401k, and why we're going to cover in our third mistake here, risking the cow instead of the milk. That's the third common mistake. So we look at Granddad. All right, my granddad, who's been deceased a long time, but he grew up during the Depression. Now that generation, my granddad's generation, they knew what it meant to lose it all. As we do this show, record this show on November 20th, 2018, I mean, the sad part of watching these raging wildfires in California is they interview people, and the look on their face when they literally say, we have nothing. I mean, I just can't, man, I mean, how sad that would be to lose everything. But if you think back to the Great Depression, I mean, people back then, yeah, they might have a roof over their head or whatever, but literally they lost it all. So that bunch of guys back then and gals during the Depression, they became and learned to be what we would call very thrifty. Is that term even used? I've got Aaron, America's favorite financial sidekick, and Matt. Both of you guys are under 40. Is that safe to say? Do you know what the term thrifty means? I know what it means. Yeah. Aaron said, I know what it means, but I don't use it. There you go. But that bunch not only knew what thrifty meant, they practiced being thrifty. So here was their deal when they like, for instance, my grandfather went to work with Bell South in 1932. I mean, he was just glad to get a job climbing telephone poles. But basically, they learned to work hard. They spent very little money, or they spent it very wisely. They made sure to try to save something. And then in the end, they really didn't have this big plan on retirement. You think about during the Depression, if you're broke, the last thing on your mind is how much you're going to have in retirement. Man, you're just trying to find your next meal. So it didn't hurt matters back then that generation, my granddad's generation, when they went to work for companies, the big companies back then, like Bell South and these companies, GE, all these big companies, GM, they realized, hey, in order to get good workers and keep these good workers here, we're going to reward them, if they'll stay with us long enough, with something called a pension plan. My granddad called it mailbox money. So what was this pension plan? What happens was, and there's still a few pension plans, some of you are eligible for them. The biggest controversial issue with pensions, obviously, if you've kept up with the news, is the teachers' retirement system, which basically on paper apparently is broke, but they're trying to figure out how to fix it. But obviously these teachers were promised a pension if they stayed, and obviously they're worried that maybe the pension will be there, maybe it won't. But in Granddad's day, they had so much faith in employers. The 401k wasn't even conceived back then. They had no money, and they were just glad to have a job. So the idea that an employer would reward them with a pension, they probably thought, man, that's icing on the cake, absolutely. And they were very, very grateful to have those pensions. So what did they do? They pretty much stayed with the same company, which is what my grandfather did. Now, in the book, Don't Follow the Herd, as I cover these mistakes, we go back to this number 3, risking the cow instead of the milk. This is what many people are doing here. And you might say, again, Tony, I don't know what that has to do with a 401k. Well, think about the pension. A pension plan is supposedly a guaranteed form of mailbox money. The pension should have absolutely no risk associated with it. It should be invested wisely, right? Doesn't this sound like something Granddad would want? It should be invested in very conservative assets because those assets have to produce income for the rest of these people's lives. And that's what Granddad depended on. Now, we fast forward to 1978. Employers are trying to figure out how we're going to afford these pensions, right? Competition's heating up. They need more money for research and development. Maybe they're getting these executives that need more money. They're getting high-powered people that are deciding to leave companies, start their own companies, and they're thinking, we can't afford these pensions. These things are draining us because a pension requires the employer to set aside loads and loads of money to pay what are called liabilities. That's the problem with the teacher's retirement. They didn't set aside enough money, or somebody else spent it, whatever they've done. I won't get into that. But bottom line is it's very, very costly to maintain a pension because that money has to be set aside and reserved for all this future guaranteed income. So voila, what is an employer going to do? An employer says, gosh, we can't afford these. My guess is that in 1977 or 78, a bunch of politicians got together with a bunch of big businesses and a bunch of people from Wall Street and said, hey, heck with these pensions. Let's create a savings tool, right? Let's put all this on the employee and take it off of the employer. We're going to create a savings tool, and we got to call it something cool. So out of the section of the code of the government that came up with this law, we now call it a 401k plan. Now, the 401k plan, as we're going to see when we come back here in a second, the 401k is a great savings tool. It really is. But with it comes something Granddad never had to worry about. It's a 4-letter word, starts with the letter R, ends with the letter K, and it's a biggie, folks. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. You're listening to the Worry-Free Retirement.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Can you afford for your money to take a hit with the stock market being so volatile these days? Nobody can time the market, but having a retirement game plan with Tony Walker Financial gives you peace of mind and sleep insurance. Learn how to prevent losses in your retirement accounts and plan your retirement around an income you can never outlive. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com today to schedule a personal meeting with Tony to secure your hard-earned money. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Tired of getting up every day and heading off to work with no end in sight? I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and I've helped lots of people retire much sooner than they ever thought possible, and maybe I can help you do the same.
If you are over the age of 50 and have at least $250,000 to invest, schedule your free meeting with Tony to see if you can retire sooner than you think. Simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
If you had a choice between being the top scientist in your field or getting mad cow disease, what would it be?
course I would choose to be the top scientist in my field.
Oh, good. I was worried you'd choose Mad Cow.
Oh, boy, that's a great clip. Saturday Night Live, Will Ferrell playing the part of Harry Carey talking about mad cow disease. And you say, what's that got to do with money? Well, it has everything to do with money since we're talking about my book, which deals with cows. Don't follow the herd. And we're recording this show on November 20th, 2018. If all your money's at risk in the stock market, you may feel like you have mad cow disease. You know, maybe it's here, gone for a little while. I don't know. But what we're trying to do is uncover this huge, huge risk, R-I-S-K, that has been introduced via the 401k plan. And what's happening, folks, the third mistake we're talking about is risking the cow instead of the milk. What we want to do is we want to protect the cow and be okay risking the milk. And we're going to find out, how can you do that? How can you keep that stall closed, keep that cow in the barn, don't let it get out here and get exposed to the elements, and instead take the milk from the cow and enjoy the milk. And if we lose the milk, so what? We got the cow. But what's happened, we're really defining a pension plan, really what we're doing there when we describe that scenario. What's happened with the 401k, unfortunately, we've let the cow out of the barn. It's out running around. Maybe it'll make us a lot of money, maybe it won't, but it has the opportunity to get slaughtered. So assuming you're sitting out there with a 401k plan, all right, assuming you're sitting there thinking, well, what am I going to do with this money? Am I going to risk it? Or is there some way I can convert it into mailbox money? Let's talk about an old fable to set up the stage for what we're going to talk about and explain a product that's going to provide you the safety and security you need to enjoy your money. So you've heard the old fable about the goose that laid the golden egg. Well, we're going to kind of turn that into Farmer Brown's cow that gave golden milk. Basically, the goose that laid the golden egg, the concept was the farmer got anxious and decided to kill the goose so he could get more eggs. You know the rest of that. Well, let's talk about cows and milk. So in the book, I talk about Farmer Brown one day going out to the stall to milk old Betsy. He had done it for years, every day, and instead of white milk comes a gold milk. He puts the milk in the pan, as he's always done. He looks at it. The pan is really heavy. He starts wondering about it. He asks Martha what to do. She says, why don't you go take it into town and see if the goldsmith can tell you what it is? Maybe it's pure gold. Farmer Brown laughs and says, well, I doubt it's pure gold. So he takes the pail of milk, the gold substance, to the goldsmith. The goldsmith tests it out and says, Farmer Brown, this is pure gold. This gold in this bucket is worth thousands of dollars. Farmer Brown gets excited, and he takes the gold and he turns it over to the goldsmith and gets the money, runs home, and he and Martha run out and spend all kinds of money, have all kinds of fun with that. The next day, goes out to old Betsy. There we go again. More golden milk coming out, takes it to the goldsmith, confirms it's worth lots of money, and spends it and enjoys it. But like all of us, as the old saying goes, a luxury once enjoyed soon becomes a necessity. Farmer Brown gets a little anxious, gets a little greedy. He wants more milk. He wants more stuff. Sound like you and I? And this is, I'm going somewhere with this, folks. Just kind of bear with me. So he goes out the next morning. He looks poor old Betsy in the eye. He says, sorry to tell you, Betsy, this is your last day on earth. I got to get the source of all that golden milk. Me and Martha want a lot more than we got right now. Slaughters the cow, and guess what? There's no golden milk to be found. He just killed the source of all of his, what we would call in this case, mailbox money. See where we're going with this? So folks, here is the point. If you have a 401k, especially if you're retired or nearing retirement, oh, that's another misconception. People say, well, while you're young, just go ahead and risk it all. You know what we're finding out? We've done studies on millennials. We've spent a lot of money trying to even understand the mind of a millennial. Many of these millennials don't like a lot of risk. I don't know why everybody thought, well, just because you're young, go ahead and take a lot of risk. I mean, my granddad never did that. Did you realize if you will save, here's a rule of thumb for you, Aaron and Matt. Y'all are young fellows sitting over there. If you will save 15% of your gross income, I know that's a lot of money. Let's say you make $100,000, so I can do the math. If you will set aside $15,000 a year, I don't care if you make 2% interest. If you can keep your fees down and taxes down, you will have a lot of money one day. So it's not really how much you earn or how much risk you take. That's what Wall Street's taught you. That is, for savers, that's a dangerous, dangerous road you're going down to assume because you're young you should be taking all kinds of risk. Now, granted, you've got a lot more time on your side. If past is prologue, that is true. You'll have a lot of money one day if you want to just risk it because over time the market's always gone up. But the problem is you can't time when you're going to want that money. How do you know how much money you're going to need and when? And how do you know if when you get that money or need that money, you go to take it out and the market's tanked 40%? How do we know the market's not getting ready to take a huge nosedive now? The problem is we don't. Nobody can time the market. That's why for our clients, we never recommend, unless they want to, that's up to them, but we never recommend that they put more than 30% of their money in the stock market. If you're a saver, that's dangerous territory if you start putting more than 30% of your money in the stock market. So how do we actually do this? How do we take this cow, your 401k, your IRA, your brokerage account, whatever, how do we take that cow, keep it in the stall, provide this steady stream of milk for the rest of your life? When I come back, I'm going to explain how we can accomplish that. So if you've got a 401k, thrift savings account, money languishing in the bank, regardless of whether you're retired or approaching retirement, you stay tuned. We're going to show you how to protect the cow and enjoy the milk. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Annuities. Some people love them and some people hate them. Regardless of how you feel about annuities, one thing's for sure, annuities are the only financial product that can guarantee an income you can never outlive. I'm Tony Walker, and regardless of whether you're thinking about buying an annuity or you have a current annuity that you would like me to review, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Since 9/11, we've written over 2,500 annuities, and we can help you by getting started now. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. We're helping you celebrate the 40th birthday of the 401k, and we're acting like maybe it's not the best thing in the world. No, not true. I don't have a problem with the 401k plans, folks. What I have a problem with is most people have no clue what they're going to do with that 401k at the magical age of 65 or 70 and a half or whenever you think you're supposed to use it. And the problem is, we're going to find this out in the next coming weeks, is the financial world has stockpiled all that money, and in the meantime, you have no use of it. And then they're asking you to be willing to risk the cow while they get all their fees. This really does not make sense. I don't think if I put it that way and said I was going to start a new business and I wanted you to invest in something where you'd have all the risk and I'd have none and I'd make money regardless of whether you do or not, I don't think I could franchise that deal. Okay? That just doesn't make sense. Oh, by the way, in coming weeks, we're going to cover something called a Roth conversion. We covered that briefly the other day. We also covered that in detail on our television show. If you want to watch the TV show, The Worry-Free Retirement, whether in Bowling Green or Louisville, we're on in major markets. The TV show is very, very popular because obviously we can show more graphics, can cover a lot more ground. To see the next TV show listing near you, just go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Is that under media, Matt? Is that on the media? Yeah, it's under the media section, and it'll show you the show times. That's the Worry-Free Retirement television show with myself, Tony Walker. We've got some great information also coming up on Roth conversions. That's one thing we can do to try to deal with these tax tumors that are buried in this 40th birthday 401k you've got there. Okay, so we're talking about how do we protect the cow and enjoy the milk. Well, again, we get paid in one of two ways. We get paid either by putting your money with insurance companies, and they pay us a commission. All right, a lot of people work that way. Or we could do both. Or we get paid on fees. We charge 0.6%. That's the lowest management fee that I'm aware of in the industry for a personally managed account that we put with our independent platform through Charles Schwab. So I personally oversee that. Our office administers that. You don't have to deal directly with Schwab. Schwab just holds onto the money. And again, we charge a fee for that. But what have I found over the years in doing this 34 years? What is the safest bet with your money? How are we going to really protect that money? Can Wall Street over in the Schwab platform, can bonds and stocks and ETFs and mutual funds that we use, can they really guarantee protection? They can't. So what we have to do is turn to insurance companies. Now, when I cut my teeth in 1984, it was in the insurance business. My father-in-law, bless his heart, God rest his soul, was gracious enough to offer me a job. That's how I got started in this business in 1984. I was only married for a year to my high school sweetheart, Susan. At that time, I was wanting to be in broadcasting. I was floundering around selling radio ads and spinning records on the weekend. And when my father-in-law offered me a job for $11,000 a year, I thought, man, I've hit jackpot. I said, when can I start? I didn't know anything about insurance, but I thought, man, I'm not going anywhere in this broadcasting deal. Isn't it ironic, though, Aaron, you and I have talked about this, that actually my broadcasting background from Western Kentucky University really has served me well because I enjoy doing radio and TV. So all is not lost out there, folks. If you're learning something, let me tell you that real quick. If you're out there learning anything, I don't care what it is, however irrelevant it might seem now, it's funny how some things will come back to help you. So as long as you're moving forward and learning, to me, you're making progress. So what I'm going to do in this remaining time we have is I'm going to cover two amazing products offered by insurance companies. And yes, we are experts in both these products. All right. These are covered in the book, Don't Follow the Herd. But more importantly, if you say, Tony, I want to sit down and go over these products, they sound awesome, then let's just sit down and meet. The first product I'm going to talk about is something called a fixed indexed annuity. Fixed indexed annuity. We cover it a lot. In fact, if you'd like more information on a fixed indexed annuity, there's a lot of misconceptions on annuities, first of all, folks. But if you want the truth about annuities, I've got a brand new booklet. Actually, it's a couple of years old, but a new booklet that you can download. We've got it now where it's downloadable. That's why it's brand new. You used to have to order the hard copy. You can go to our website right now at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. It's called the Annuity Decision Guide for Savers, and download it. It talks about these products called fixed indexed annuities. And basically what they do is it allows you to take that 401k, IRA, that money that's not earning anything over at the bank. You can roll that over to an insurance company. We help you do this. It issues an annuity contract. That annuity then can either pay you a set interest rate, it can be invested in the stock market at no risk, and it can be set up to provide you mailbox money for life. It can be set up to where there's no fees. We can add fees if you want to add some components to it. We are experts in this field of fixed interest and fixed indexed annuities. And I can assure you, we've written over 2,500 of these since 9/11. We've had a chance to really watch them play out. And I can assure you, you're not going to risk the cow. Now you say, what happens to the milk, Tony? Well, the milk can either be converted to interest and given to you that way, or that milk can be put into what we call participating in the stock market. And again, the booklet, the Annuity Decision Guide for Savers, will show you that. If you want to meet in person, I'll be happy to show you how we can take that milk money, so to speak, and either create mailbox money or possibly grow the account with absolutely no risk to the cow. Now, the second product I'm going to explain to you might shock you, especially if you've been listening to a lot of people on radio and they go on and on about term life insurance. And they've always, these same people that love term life insurance, which is fine. Term life insurance has its place. We issue term life for some situations. But the problem with term life insurance, it's not a long-term solution. And this exposes the fact that people that are constantly pushing term life have no clue how to do proper retirement planning. Because in retirement planning, what we want to do is we want to have our cake and eat it too. We want to enjoy our money for the rest of our life, but most of us would like to replace the assets we spend. And wouldn't it be nice if we could leave that tax-free to our kids and grandkids? I think it would be. That's what I've done in my own planning. And the product that does that is something that's been around for over 100 years. It's called Dividend Participating Whole Life. Dividend Participating Whole Life. I call it DPWL for an acronym. And on my book, And Don't Follow the Herd, if you grab this on page 110, I use an example of my son, Philip. He's my oldest boy. And when he was 23, I said, Philip, I'm going to take out a dividend participating whole life policy on you. And he said, what's that, Dad? And I said, just shut up and you're going to show up for an exam. I'm going to have to pee in a cup and draw some blood, but you'll love me for it, son. I promise you. You got to have an insurance exam, folks, to get insurance. Anyway, so what we did with Philip, and I've got this illustrated in the book, he's going to put in, and he's been doing this, I've helped him a little bit along the way, $500 a month. Now, keep in mind, this is an insurance product, but that premium of $500 a month can never be increased. What insurance do you know that can't be increased? In other words, guaranteed premium for life. Nothing, but this does. Now, if he does this based on current dividends, which right now, dividends are the lowest I've ever seen them. So these projections I'm going to share with you are very, very low. That's another thing. If you're out here looking at something called Index Universal Life, be very careful. Many people sharing these products are illustrating 6, 7, 8% rates of return. Folks, don't go there. It's okay to assume it might make that, but don't bank on 6, 7, 8%. The likelihood of that happening is nil, okay? You cannot put your hope on something like that. But these dividends are very, very low right now, meaning these numbers I'm going to show you are very practical and possibly very, very realistic. So let's look at this. If Philip keeps putting $500 a month, this was when he was 23. Philip's now 32. If he does this until age 65, all right, remember, the premium can never go up. That's $6,000 a year or $500 a month. He will have in cash value, this is money he can use for whatever he wants, $883,000. Now, here's the kicker. His death benefit, his life insurance, which originally started at only $340,000, will have grown to $1.7 million. And you say, well, Tony, who needs that much money? Well, you got to remember at age 65 with inflation, $1.7 million, that's a lot of money, but it's not going to seem as much, right? I mean, that's 43 years from now. But that money, when he dies, if he dies at age 65, is completely tax-free. And you know why I want him to have this? Because in case I have grandkids, in other words, Philip has kids one day, this is a way that I know that he, if he passes away, can protect my future generation. See what I mean? And that's why I've been willing to help Philip with this. And maybe you're sitting there too. Maybe you've got adult children. You have grandchildren. And you're always wanting to know, well, how can I help them, Tony? You know what I've got clients doing? They're using their money they don't need now. We're showing them how to tax-free give that away and how to tax-free create a legacy that will pass on to their kids and grandkids with very little to no risk. Maybe you want to take advantage of that. Maybe you want to see how that works. Maybe you're tired of all these taxes and when you die, the 401k tax tumor eroding your wealth. Let us show you how to protect more of your money. It's easy to do. If you'd like to get started and see some of our work, again, there's absolutely no cost or obligation to do so. You would just simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Now, once there, you've got all kinds of options. There's plenty of downloads. By the way, you can also go to our YouTube channel. Is that Tony Walker Financial, gang? Yeah. I mean, that's a great channel because you can watch a lot of clips, past episodes. Just go to YouTube and then just type in Tony Walker Financial. But back to meeting with me, it's easy to do. We can either meet in our Bowling Green, Kentucky office or Louisville, Kentucky office. Happy to do so. I am a fiduciary. We charge nothing to meet. There's no obligation. So think about doing it now. All you do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. And remember, between now and next week, between now and the time we talk, you be worry-free.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.